It is no secret that nuclear operatives have been struggling in Space Station 14. While it is easy to say that it is just a skill issue, and that most nuclear operatives are rather new players, I don't believe nuclear operatives should have to play their hearts out in order to get a win. I think nuclear operatives who play together and play well should probably get pretty close to a win, if not win. I'm not saying that the win rate should be ideally like 50%. I don't think a game like this should really be balanced that specifically. Space Station is a sandbox role-playing game. I don't think we should be balancing it quite like it's an esports game. However, by having the nuclear operatives be as weak as they are currently, players have been adopting more, I'd say, stressful tactics, as in nuclear operatives are almost borderline scared to get in confrontations now. Um, there's been, I'd almost say, power creep towards security. Security has now gotten access to its own tech branch. They can get access to advanced laser weaponry. They can get X-ray cannons, for God's sake, which, guess what? A nuclear operative's armor does nothing to stop an X-ray cannon other than the heat part. But 10 shots, you're done. You're perma-dead because you can't cure the damage without chemistry. And I don't think nuclear operatives should be walking around with every single type of medicine in the game, so that's part of the chemistry removal. However, I still think the chemistry removal is the right call, but I think nuclear operatives need more gear. Now let's take a look at their main gear sets. Sure, they can buy pistols, but so can syndicates. So what do you end up seeing nuclear operatives do? Nuclear operatives typically end up purchasing things like the fire axe or the double-bladed energy sword. Why? Because it has infinite potential. As long as you don't get stunned and cuffed, these weapons can win their TC cost over dozens of times. Fire axes can destroy every damn wall in the station with very little effort. They can destroy doors that you don't have access to. They are just all in all one of the greatest tools in the game. It might be the best syndicate purchase in the game. There's a reason why you see it so often. The double-bladed energy sword has had a lot of controversy, and as far as I'm aware, it's always been controversial. But I'm not going to talk about the double-bladed energy sword at the moment. I'm going to talk about their guns. The China Lake is a meme. It is extraordinarily good, but it also has the capability of killing yourself and your entire team. It is a very, very good item. It comes with 11 grenades for 30 TC, and they will basically one-shot anyone other than, like, the chief engineer or, I guess, the research director. The research director is pretty much invincible to bombs, but different point as well. Now, these are the three main guns of the Syndicate and or the Nuclear Operatives arsenal. The C-20 bundle, the Bulldog bundle, and the L6 saw. You don't really see the saw very much because the saw takes all 40 of your TC. Yeah, I have 260. I just didn't feel like wasting time. This would take one operative's entire purchase in order to use. Let me just purchase it real quick. The L6 saw comes with, it weighs 60, and it comes with one extra box mag, so it actually doesn't take up that much inventory space. So like this is like a default operatives inventory. You can stick the mag and the L6 in your backpack and be ready to go. You are set to kill a lot of people. The L6 saw, total damage is 3,800 damage comes into this bundle, and plus 19 if you include the one in the chamber. However, the L6 saw is extraordinarily inaccurate. That was a 6-round burst, and I hit the target once. So, accuracy be damned. And if you want any form of accuracy, you must wield it. And wielding it means you lose a hand, meaning that you can't pick up the weapons of the fallen, you can't drag your fallen Nukies very easily, you can't drag somebody who got stunned away or pushed them away. Losing a hand in this game, I have probably said it a dozen times, is one of the worst things you can possibly do. And like obviously you can't physically lose the hand yet, but having both your hands 100% occupied in order to even operate a weapon will always put you at a disadvantage in many scenarios. This game involves a lot of stuns. It involves a lot of having to grasp and fumble around with a rather clunky hand system. So losing both hands is very clunky. And if you want to unwield your gun, you're going to want to press Z, which means you're going to waste bullets. And every bullet you waste is a waste of TC, and you don't have very many resources. Security on most stations will be almost as armed as you are, So there's a reason why almost every single Nukie, 95% of the time, is going to go straight to the armory because they're the ones who are going to stop you. It makes Nukie rounds rather stagnant, and I know this is becoming a common problem, and it's becoming more of a problem, because Nukies have just fallen further and further and further behind, while security gets further and further and further ahead. It is borderline... Also, Nukies, and over time, have lost one of their strongest boons. Spacing is slow now, and spacing damage on certain races, or species like the spider, you die so slow to it that what benefit is there to space things? If anything, you might just end up getting yourself caught. Players in this game are very aware of how the mechanics of spacing work, and we are back to how it was months ago, where people just run into space with no EVA because losing movement speed is too big of a nerf. So yes, the L6 saw, in order to be any form of accurate, requires both hands. And in order to do, even with both hands on the gun, it is only accurate for a few shots. This is an unarmored target. I wouldn't even have crit him in that burst, and I used 10 bullets. I have used a decent bit of my TC already, and I wouldn't have even have crit this unarmored target, not even 5 tiles away, standing perfectly still. Oftentimes on stations, there can be 75 other people on the station that are not your friends. And there's no real difference between a gray shirt picking up a stun baton versus a security officer picking up a stun baton. It is totally reasonable for players to want to hunt the Nukies because they are a station-ending threat. They are valid. If they aren't stopped, you're not going to be able to do your job anyway. So a lot of people, the first thing they do when they see Nukies is they gear up. Now, things get really complicated in this game because armor isn't just exclusive to security. You can find armor and maintenance. You can find web vest in some maps. You can find... I mean, even just putting on a fire suit helmet and a winter coat can make you take an extra bullet or two. And this is ranty, I understand. But either way, the L6 saw is extremely inaccurate. You basically have to shotgun people, and the last thing you want to do in this game is get in melee range because you're going to get stun batoned. So you don't see the L6 saw very often. You used to see it a lot when it was a little better. It was basically the purchase. But it has been nerfed significantly to the point that it is only really used in situations where you're trying to just run down the armory as fast as possible to take their guns. However, there are a few strategies with the L6 saw. So if you take the mag out, something you'll notice is that if you cooperate with your allies, you could purchase a box of 30 rifle magazines for 1 TC. Inside of this are 6 magazines. Each magazine has 30 bullets. You can absolutely fill up your L6 saw almost fully with just 1 additional TC. And yeah, carpal tunnel be damned. You have to click the 180 times. But for 1 TC, you can make the cost of the L6 go up significantly. I think this is weird. I think this shouldn't be a thing. I don't think encouraging somebody to click literally 200 fucking times is good. It's actually carpal tunnel inducing. We should not be making our players click 200 times in order to fill up a magazine. I'll get to my point. This has been a rant, and I'm going to label this as a rant. I feel like we should have sell the magazines at this point. If we don't want Nukies making infinite chems, which I agree, they should not be unstoppable pinnacles of health. They should not be wasting around time by spending 35 minutes kiting through space, either loading magazines one at a time or popping 700 pills. I agree with that. But I think Nukies should be armed enough where if they're not stopped pretty quickly, they will become a very big snowballing problem. Anyway, let's move on to another purchase. The Bulldog. In my entire time of playing this game, the only time I have ever seen a Bulldog actually purchased is probably less than 5 times. The Bulldog is a very, very underwhelming purchase. It comes with the Bulldog, which the best thing about the Bulldog is it only weighs 30. It comes with 1 extra lethal mag of 8 shells. Total damage value of the Bulldog is 1,152 damage for 25 TC. That is if you land every single pellet. Actually, beanbags do 10 damage, so there's actually some damage potential at the beanbags, but the main point of beanbags is stunning people. The benefits, the big benefits of the Bulldog is that it is fully accurate while running and gunning, which is basically how you are forced to use guns in this game. You never want to be standing still, you want to always be moving. Bulldogs, ironically or unironically, are better ranged options than the L6 saw. You do not have to cycle the Bulldog. It is fully automatic and automatically ejects the shells. And even at a range like this, you still end up landing at least half the pellets, making the Bulldog a more accurate gun at range than a light machine gun with both hands on it. However, you're still not going to see the Bulldog very often because it costs 25 TC, and the only way to resupply ammo with it would be if you raid the armory and purposely unload all the K-mirrors. Or you sit there and somehow access their tech fab and hope they have materials in it and make your own shells, but that's just... no one's doing that as a Nukie. The time's against you. You don't want to be wasting time. Anyways, don't really have much more to say about the Bulldog. It is... the main benefit of the Bulldog is it's an extremely high DPS. It shoots 2 shells a second. So essentially, the DPS of a Bulldog is 144 damage per second, and that is if every single pellet hits, which it's most likely not going to. So you can crit 4 unarmored targets practically. If in a perfect scenario, you could crit 4 unarmored targets. However, these perfect scenarios aren't that common, and you're going to be fighting many security officers. There's often going to be more security officers than there are you. And even with perfect situations, it takes all 4 shells to crit an officer, meaning you have to spend a quarter of your TC, which is 25, to even crit a singular officer. And if they don't have guns for you, you really aren't going to gain much from doing that. So that's probably why the Bulldog just isn't that attractive of an option, and why you pretty much never see it. Now we move on to the most purchased gun, the C20. The C20 is the most purchased for good reasons. The Nukies come with a free C20, which comes with a free 30 magazine. The C20 uses the 35 auto ammo, which is a standard round for all the nanotressin submachine guns, such as the Droized and the WT-550. The only one that doesn't use that is the Lecter. The Lecter uses 20, but not every map has Electors. It is more common for maps to have Droized, and the head of security always have the WT-550. So let's do the math on the C20 submachine gun. The C20 submachine gun comes with 3 lethal mags of 35 auto. 35 auto does 16 damage a shot. The total perfect damage of a C20 submachine gun is 1,456 damage. It's a more cost-efficient per damage gun than the Bulldog. The C20 also shoots at a whopping 8 bullets a second. So if you do the math on that, you do 16 times 8. The DPS of the C20 is 128, which is, by the way, only 16 damage worse than the Bulldog. And since it's a submachine gun, you're not losing entire fractions of your magazine every time you miss a shell or two. So the C20 is overall going to be much more efficient at killing people because you can miss and not lose as much of your total ammo. The C20 is rather accurate. It does not require 2 hands. It can actually be changed to semi-auto. And the gun, like, I could stand... what is this? Like, I'm not even going to count it. It's like 12 tiles away. You can tap fire a full screen's length away and land every shot. This makes the C20 extremely good in that reason. Or extremely good at any range. Even at closer ranges, you are practically not going to miss until you're 10 plus bullets deep into your spray. And by then, you're going to crit basically anyone that is coming up against you. That is the reason why the C20 is by far the most commonly used gun of the nuclear operatives. It only costs 25 TC, so only a little bit over half your TC. There's one already on the Nukie planet with a lethal mag, so that's just extra bonus. That's just another bonus to that. It uses a common bullet type, which, by the way, this comes back into the L6 problem. You could buy pistol mags that cost 1 TC that come with 10. So essentially, if you're fine with getting carpal tunnel, you can spend 3 TC to get an entire another full mag. So for 3 TC, you'll end up getting 480 damage worth of bullets. And that means that you can get 160 damage per TC total if you obviously land every single bullet. That's, again, not a perfect world, but what this does is it encourages Nukies just spam clicking, again, with carpal tunnel type things, and just offers really odd gameplay. Like, imagine you see a nuclear operative in a corner, literally just, like, doing stuff like that. Like, I think this is really weird for... I don't think it's fitting. Again, I think this is another situation where Nukie should probably just be able to buy the magazines. Like, I don't really care what 13 did, and I don't know if in 13 the Nukies could buy ammo, but I'm also pretty sure in 13 Nukies could buy way stronger shit than anything that occurs here, and security is basically on par with the same, like, nothing's ever going to be better than beanbags to the chest or stun batons, so I feel like you could give Nukies almost like a fucking... You could give Nukies the Nukie grenade and they would still... Their odds of winning would still be fairly low. But anyway, this is a very long rant. It's just my thoughts. I might consider trying to PR putting in the ammo into the Nukies pool at least, or even into just both, because syndicates are way less likely to ever get their hands on these guns, and especially have the TC to actually be able to use the ammo, so even then, that's probably fine for them to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I did technically lie. There is a sawn off here. You can get exactly two more lethal shells from here, or you can take your practice shotgun cartridges with you, which is, yeah, take that. Was that probably like 6 damage? Anyways, that is just my follow-up to Nukies as they are now.